Wish you knew how to get your writing to be irresistible and unputdownable? How would you like for your LinkedIn posts to get you leads, or your email newsletters to reactivate past clients or activate leads? In this episode, I'm sharing how you can communicate your value in writing so that it works to get you results. I'm going to share how you need to differentiate your work from ChatGPT and any competitors, some ways that you unintentionally sabotage yourself in your writing, and the ideal way to start and end everything you write, no matter what it is. Join me for an episode that's going to help you to hook your clients and keep them reading and listening with eager anticipation. Hey, it's Samantha Hartley, and today I want to talk to you about how to expand your business through writing. Writing. Communicating your value in writing so that it goes out to all of the places where your perfect clients can find it. It's a visibility strategy, putting your words, putting your brand in front of people wherever they are. That's strategic visibility, not everywhere, just exactly where your perfect clients can find it. That's what we're going to learn how to do today, specifically how to write posts that actually get read and get your perfect clients to take action. Early in my career, had a boss ask me to write something for him. Went away, wrote it in like 15 minutes, came back, and he was like, oh my gosh. And I was like, why is he having this amazed reaction at something that I wrote? And then I realized there's so much stuff that we have to write in business, and most people are not good at writing. Most people don't write well. They didn't go to school to learn how to do that. Well, I went to a liberal arts college, and all we did was write. There were no tests, no grades. I know I said liberal. And what we did for everything was wrote. So we just wrote essays. And what I learned how to do was communicate in writing. And what was always really important for me was I knew that somebody was reading this. And I felt sorry, like even in 8th grade, for my 8th grade English teacher or history teacher who had to read like all these essays. And so I would try to make my essay like interesting for her to read so that she wouldn't feel like, oh my God, yet another essay. She'd be like, oh, that one's kind of entertaining. Okay, cool. It's still what I try to do with my writing and all of my communications. I want Edu-tain. I want to make people glad that they enjoyed it, they enjoyed consuming the content, and they learned something. So it's educational and also entertaining. That's not what everyone's brand wants to do. So the first thing that you need to do when you're approaching this subject in general is figure out, what does your brand stand for? And what is the value in the value communication piece here that you're doing? Figuring out what your brand is, the brand, the message, that's what's going to be infused into the writing. Now, I have lots of shows about that, and I will point you in that direction so that you can think about, what do I want to be known for and what do I want to communicate? But once you are writing for your brand, you want to make a promise, like use your marketing messages to make bold promises to them. That's what a brand message will do. And then substantiate that promise with proof. And proof are things like case studies, testimonials, stories about your clients and the results that they've gotten. And when we communicate those in writing, what happens is that people get a feeling of what it would be like to work with you. The writing itself gives them an experience of what it would be like to work with you. So that's kind of the goal in this value communication. And it's why people will want to take an action with you as a result of it, because they think, oh, wow, if that's what I can expect, if that's what the experience will be, then I want to know more. I want to go further. I want to talk with her. I want to hire her. Whatever are those next steps, that's what they're going to do. So I'm going to share with you how you can do this in a single post, article, video, whatever is the piece of content you're creating. You want it to have this structure that I'm about to share with you. Okay, cool thing to think about: bookends. What's the first piece and then what's the last piece? When you're thinking about content creation, the first part of this is before you even start step 0, that is the intention. What do you want to have happen as a result of someone reading or studying this? My intention for you watching this video today is that at the end of it, and I'm going to do a call to action in a bit, this is just like a little foreshadowing, I want you as a result of this to be inspired to go and write a post, to go and create content using the information that you learn or reminded of in today's episode. So that's my intention. I want action at the end of this. Eventually, do I want you to think about being my client and all of that kind of stuff? Sure. But for this single piece of content, I have a single desired action that I want you to take, and it's going to be stated in a call to action. So those are the bookends. What's the intention? And then I follow through on that intention. I name that intention in the form of a call to action at the end of a post. So as leaders, we want to tell people what we want them to do. You're going to lead them to the next action. If this is a video on YouTube, I might say, hey, like, share, subscribe, if it's going to be a post on LinkedIn, you can say, hey, follow me for more tips like this. If you want to have an email that you send out and you want to get a response to that, you can say hit reply and just use the word this, and I will get back to you about blah, blah, blah. So whatever is the desired action you want someone to take, that should be at the end of whatever you're creating. Quick jump over here to an email. What if you're just following up with someone, or you're doing a cold outreach even to someone in an email? My intention, I want them to schedule an appointment with me. How do I make that happen? Well, the last line of the email is, would you be available next Tuesday at 2 p.m. to talk about this? That's a call to action in the form of a question. Just hit reply and let me know. Don't send someone to your scheduling thing. That's a to-do. Nobody wants a stupid to-do. And by the way, when they get there on their scheduling thing, they see their calendar and they think, oh my God, I have this and this and this, and then they never get back to you. So when you're wondering why it doesn't work to send a calendar link, that's very often what's happening. Okay, quick diversion. Back to, now we've got our intention and we've got our call to action. It's time to write this post. So how do we start any post, whether you literally write this first thing or you write it after you've written the post, but we want to start that post with a hook. So now the rest of the time we're talking, I'm going to talk to you about hooks and why we need a hook and how you want that hook to work. Okay. A hook is the thing that gets someone to consume this piece of content. We're not even going to stay here unless we've been hooked and interested in it. And so much writing that I see online is boring. I cannot even make it from the beginning. You know, those like 7 seconds that they say you have on a website to capture someone's attention. What is it now on TikTok? Like 2, 3? Less than a goldfish's attention span is how long you have to catch someone's attention. So how do you do that? You do it with a hook. Sometimes you'll have a visual hook if it's in a visual medium like video, but in writing, we want to have a different kind of hook. And there are 5 good ways, 5 good hooks that you can use to open any piece of content. So here's what they are. First one, question. Why is a question a good way to open a piece of content? Because when you ask a question, a person's brain automatically, passively, involuntarily begins to answer that question. They don't even have to do any work, but you ask the question, automatically they start to answer that question. That's amazing, isn't it? So let's use the power of psychology to involve someone. It's why so many people, so much content begins with a question. For example, did you ever wonder how other consultants get clients? And then I might say, in this video, I'm going to share blah, blah, blah. That's the hook, right? So that's a hook in the form of a question. Second kind of hook you can use a fact, especially a surprising fact. I love using facts. This is another one that's been proven. When you write the word fact and then you say something after it, most people believe it's true. Could be the craziest, stupid thing. But a lot of people will be like, okay, it was a fact. Again, the brain receives it in a certain way with kind of gravitas. I love to use facts and statistics in articles because it's really given that believability factor. It's very eye-catching when you have those like numbers and percentages in the facts. Really good way to start an article in which you're then going to substantiate your point of view with whatever you've written in there. Here's the way to open a piece of content with a fact. A recent LinkedIn study found that more than half of US adults plan to change jobs within the next year. Shocking, right? So a surprising fact like that is especially a good way to start whatever piece of content you have. Third way, story. Don't say, let me tell you a story, or here's a quick story. Just tell the story. It's even better if you can start the story in the middle of the action, not a bunch of like stage setting. Imagine it's the blah, blah. No, just start in the middle of the action. For example, early last year, as I walked into the Great Pyramid of Giza in Egypt, I felt a panic attack coming on. Fourth way, a benefit. This is particularly a good way to start a sales page or something like that where you're going to describe a program. For example, here's the way you would open it. Discover how to multiply your revenues without exhaustion using transformational engagements. Aren't you interested in reading more about that? Okay, the last way, and my favorite way, is opening with a quote. You can use an inspirational quote from someone famous. You can use a historical quote or even something scholarly. But what I love to use is a quote from a client, like a recent testimonial, something that my client has said. If you have something like a text, you can use this as the image in your post and still use the quote to open what they're about to read. It kind of has that double emphasis. So I really love this, especially with something like a testimonial. For example, got a text from a client recently who wrote, the client just signed the retainer for $11,306 per month for 2024, came up from $10K. So if that's the opening of my post, then I get to give context to that. I get to talk about the work that my client and I have been doing to get that result. The call to action might be to get results like this, just get in touch. You can hear how that quote can be very attention getting at the beginning of any piece of content. So now let's summarize the format that we're using. You begin with your intention, that's step 0. You open the piece with this hook, and then you're going to conclude it with a call to action. So what's this middle part here? Well, that's the part where I was talking about edutaining your reader. You want to bring something using your brand voice. You want to teach us something or provide some value. Tell us something we didn't know and hopefully make us glad that we read it. What I want to caution you against is too much generic, too much something that ChatGPT or really any 5 competitors of yours could have written. I want to read something from you that only you could teach me. So it can be your unique point of view about something, or it can be, 3 random teaching points, but with stories that you illustrate that can only be your stories. You can tell it in your brand voice. What is brand voice? It's the way that you talk when you're talking with your clients, when you're in the flow of your genius. And that's unique to you. And we want to hear that come through in your writing. The way to do that, and I'm going to get into this with some tips in a moment, you want to perfect your ability to do that fluently on demand so that you sit down and you write a post and it's already like in your voice. When you're writing a short piece of content, and these are things like email, social posts, making a short video that's under 2 minutes, you want to have one teaching point. You cannot get too many things across when you only have a little bit of time. You want to make those concise, really simplified, very consumable, like quick bites. If you're writing an article or a longer form piece of content, if you're doing a capabilities presentation, this is where you're going to look to making like 3 to 5 main teaching points. Rarely you can do something like a top 10 list, but it's almost always too much content to consume. And think about it. If you could turn a top 10 list into 10 different pieces of content, wouldn't that be great? A great way to approach it. So figure out what that one point that you want to get across is, or the 3 short points that you want to make. And then find stories or examples that are unique to you to illustrate them. That's going to make your content really stand out. My last quick tips. I see so much bad writing online. I know you do too, but it really stands out to me as a writer and a person with a writing background. So here's what I want to call out. Write to one person. Have you ever seen somebody say, well, for some of you who are whatever, I'm like, I'm not some of you. I'm one person reading this. Like, who's this some of you? Write to one person. That one person should be your perfect client. The things that you know about her, you can make assumptions, you can use some shorthand, but don't try to be too clever in writing. Writing is really tough. You want to keep it simple. Those puns, plays on words, that complicated flowery language, save that for verbal communication or interpersonal communication. When it's in writing, try to keep it as simple as possible so that it's easily consumable. The best kind of writing, it's like you glance down and it just goes into your eyes and straight into your brain. That's the best way to write if you can do it. That requires writing to one person, keeping it simple, and read it out loud. David McCullough, the great writer, he and his wife Rosalie used to read things aloud to one another. His books were like 500 pages long. They still read them aloud numerous times to one another so that they could hear the way the prose worked. The Brooklyn Bridge, he wrote, 1776, the biography of Jefferson, biography of John Adams. Can you imagine reading those back and forth to each other? Read your stuff, especially high stakes things like the email that you want to make sure sounds right, gets the right tone. Anything you're posting publicly on behalf of your brand, you want to read it out loud. You're going to find mistakes you didn't think were in there. You're going to find things that are just a little too clever for their own good. Things that you trip over, their brain is going to trip over when they're trying to read that out loud. So make sure you read your work out loud. Okay, last thing. Hate to have to say this, but you want to format for readability. Remember when I was saying that things need to go into your eyes? You want to have white space, bullet points, bolded. It needs to be on the screen, or even nowadays when it's on paper, we can't see a wall of text. We need to see the blank areas in it so that things are easy to absorb in the eyes. So when you write a post, take a look at the way other posts look that are really easy to read and to process, and format your posts that way. This is hard on platforms that don't give you any formatting options, so you can't necessarily bold things. So use emojis, line breaks, and other lines, other formatting tricks that you can use to make it easy for things to be read. If you only do 3 things, I want you to focus on them, your reader. I want you to keep it concise and simple so that things are easy to read. And remember, no hook, no reader. Mastering these hooks is going to make sure that your writing gets read and people take action on what you've written. Now, remember I said earlier that my intention for this was what I'm going to remind you of in the call to action. Here's what I want you to do. Take the tips that you've learned today, or maybe you've been reminded of, go write a social post use the hashtag ProfitableJoyfulConsulting and tag me in whatever you've written so I can come and cheer you on. With that, I'm wishing you a profitable and joyful consulting business. Thank you for watching. To learn more about how to build a consulting business where you work exclusively with perfect clients on transformational engagements and build a profitable and joyful consultancy, then please subscribe to our channel and be sure to click the bell to get notifications when new episodes come out.